Alright, so this is my review of the Radpower. I believe it's the Radrover. If there's any noise, it's because I'm right here next to my street in my front yard. So I had to write down a checklist for this one. I usually don't do lists. I try to go in freeform, but this is a bigger purchase and it's important to get all the facts right. So the pros, which I'm going to go over first, and then I'll transition into the cons, and then my overall will be at the end, obviously. For this bike, I think it's a great value for how much it costs. And then breaking down from there, it's like $1,500. It's not that much. It's really not that much at all. And the next pro is the motor. It's only a 750 watt Baofeng, whatever. It's 750. It can get to 20. It struggles to get to 20 when you're on hills, but it'll easily get to them on flats. It does have, you can feel the torque kick you back. But it's not really that fast if you're like, other than just commuting. It was easy for me to assemble, but I have a decent amount of bicycle knowledge, so it's a little helpful to know that. The fat tires, and just to show perspective on how huge these tires are, they're absolutely massive. And since they're so big, and they tell you not to inflate them all the way, and that's for a design purpose. For one, they're puncture resistant, but they're only going to be puncture resistant if they have a little give. Because if they're super tight, then they're going to resist against whatever's pushing against them and they might pop. And also with them being not aired up as much, they're going to be acting like suspension. Speaking of that, the front suspension is okay, but you can like change it right here, the preload and stuff, but honestly, doesn't do that much. And then another part of the pros, which will transition into the cons, there's a small learning curve. And I say small because I've ridden bikes before. So if you've ridden a bicycle before, then it's fine. But if you've never done it before, having one with a motor, it's it's not as easy. So right now, the way this key is set up, you could just pull the battery out, and it just slides out with a decent amount of force. To lock it on the frame, you will push in, and you can see it depress in, and then you twist. So that's off, and then one more twist up. Then you come up here and press and hold the mode button, and the LCD screen will come on. That's how many miles I have on it. If you tap it again, it'll give you how long that certain trip is. Battery meter, this will tell you how many watts you're using and what power mode. Changing power modes, sorry, is going up and down right here. And it'll change. You have a little bell. Doesn't really do much, no one ever hears it. To turn on the headlight and tail light, you press and hold these buttons, and then the LCD screen, since you can't really tell because it's daytime out here, but it lights up. The headlight comes on, and then the tail light comes on. If you tap this, it blinks. So that learning curve is my transition point into the cons. Like I said, if you haven't ever ridden a bike before, then it can be quite challenging, especially with the brakes. Not with the brakes, but with the throttle. My next thing is there's no regenerative braking, but that's not a big con because that's only on this model. The other Radpowers have them, or some of them do. And then next, the headlights and the brakes. The brakes are one of my bigger cons, is especially this rear brake. It doesn't really do much for slowing. Even though they're big disc brakes, they're not hydraulic. They're mechanical brakes. So they don't do much to stop the bike, especially that rear brake. And if you're coming into a turn too fast, you can't clamp down on that front brake because then that can get really dangerous. So I'd like for that rear brake to get a little louder. Not a little louder. A little stronger. And then the headlight doesn't do much, especially with this being... Sorry about that. The headlight isn't as bright as I think it should be, especially if you're only going to be using the headlight. I have to ride with a headlamp to make it safe. And then one of the two bigger parts that's kind of annoying, and one of them is outright dangerous in my opinion. It's hard to find a mechanic to work on this. Like I asked 2 people to do tune-ups on it, people that I trust, that I would actually take my bike to, and they said because it's an e-bike, they're not going to touch it. They would touch Specialized and stuff because they have training on Specialized, but because they're not Specialized in this brand, it's not going to matter. The other thing, I can't show it right here because I can't ride it and hold one-handed. The throttle, granted, I think the throttle's on. Yeah, throttle's on. So it doesn't show right here, but let's say you're at full throttle and you let off. It'll keep rolling with throttle on for like a quarter second. It doesn't sound like much, but whenever that happens, and so what happened is I kind of crashed on it already. You can tell right there where the mud's on the tire, and there's scraping on that pedal down there. It was more or less I just hit the side of a curb, and it just kind of knocked the front tire out from under me. Well, I was going about 11 miles an hour when that happened, and I was accelerating, so I had it full throttle, and as I know I let go of the throttle because I didn't have a hold of the handlebars, and this back tire kept spinning enough to where it kicked the bike going that way, and it could have been worse, especially if like let's say you were on it and it dragged you into traffic because of that. And then same thing has happened with the pedal assist mode, where I had stopped pedaling and I was coming up to a stop, and I don't believe the rear brake engages the motor disconnect, so it kept pushing me into traffic while I was coming towards a red light for me. That's something that I think needs to be adjusted or changed like immediately. That throttle needs to be twitchy, I think, like where not twitchy in the point to where it gives you full power instantly, but it needs to stop whenever you let off. And then that's really all I have to say about it. My overall impressions are I think it's a great bike. I think it's a great value for what it is. If you have more than $1,500, I would go with something better, something a little higher end, but it's hard to beat at $1,500. Other than that, I'm just gonna start rambling. If y'all like the video, leave a like. If y'all have any questions, comment, anything I missed, any questions you have, feel free to answer them. Thanks for watching.